checking in on YouTube. Looks like it's made a connection. We're going to. And all right, we're live. Jake, you wanna start us off and remind everybody that if you want to see the whole thing and you're on Instagram, then go over to YouTube, Turbo Pit Fighter Comic. Watch all three of us noodling away mindlessly in a magical way.
Yeah, what he said. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another fantabulous episode of Making Turbo Pit Fighter, where we are drawing and inking in split screen in real time every Sunday as we talk about comics and we talk about the story and we talk about what's going on with the characters and everything like that and the world of comics. And for the last 3 episodes, we've had our treasured guest here. So we have Alex Turbin, the proprietor of Random Access and Mutandis Comics. And this is a little bit new for us, where we've had a guest on to chew the rag, but it's been working out pretty fun. And how's everybody?
I am great. That's
Right.
way too much.
Well.
I'm not great.
Yeah, we're all on an extra hour of sleep.
Yeah.
Or maybe not, or maybe doom scrolling, but whatever you did for between 9 and 10 just now. So yeah, I'm going to be finishing. I'm done with this page here, page 21. So I'm penciling issue number 2. We have 21 pages down, and I'm moving on today to another page, which is always fun for me because it's all blank. I'm just going to cut it up into boxes, and I'm supposed to be taking this to this. And I first I do it on this pad as a rough, and then I bring in the comic paper and do my finals. Kurt, on the other hand, is doing his fine line inking, right? And he's working on issue 2, and I think you were on page 18 last time.
No, I am right now on page 26.
Okay.
I have gathered off to the right of me pages 13 through 25. I am going to give a just another quick, just making sure I feel 100% on this 80%, just all my black lines and stuff. And then after the show later today, if not tomorrow, I will scan those pages. And next week, I will be working on pages 13 through 18, which is the next 6 pages for a turbo teaser, number 3.
Right, and that's something interesting we've been talking about, because so far we put out one 6-page teaser just to kind of finalize our process and workflow. And see what it's like to just, print something. We only printed using xerography, the fine art of xerography. And then when we finished 12 pages, we did the same thing, except we accumulated pages 1 through 12, says right here. And I went for a quick print. I did 30 copies of this, and I have this quick print thing. And this is pretty fun. Yesterday I was at a record fair. I was tabling at a record fair, and I had all my records out for sale, and I had my band stuff out for sale, and I've hung up some comics, and a couple of people were interested. I actually gave one away to somebody in trade. You get into interesting conversations with a lot of the overlapping music nerds and comic nerds. But it seems like what we're going for the next installment might be, rather than put out the next 6 pages and go from pages 1 to 18 with a cumulative teaser, we might just do pages 13 to, you're talking about 20s, 25 here?
18.
So how many pages is 13 to 18? So the
Yeah,
next
it would
six,
be the next 6. Yeah.
the next 6 in an anthology zine with other contributors, and publish it that way, so that we get the cross pollination, and we also start to get a workflow going with some other people involved under the Doom magazine imprimatur, and bring in all the other publishers and plug all their stuff. So that's currently what's bubbling up in our brains. And Alex was part of that. He kind of reached out and suggested, like, why don't you guys put something out a little more on the regular, where you can bring some of this other fine art in from other artists. And as far as promos and teasers and everything, I think it's a fine idea. I think if you're going to do something that you expect people to sit on their bookshelves for a long time, you might want to make it a much bigger collection. But I have plenty of anthologies. Raw magazine comes to mind. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, and we're still just kind of spitballing. And that also brings us back to our conversation last week when we ended on a cliffhanger. I have my notes here of things to bring up, and one was going to be asking Alex about how he might want to toe his way into the what do we call it? The end of the world timeline, basically the Turbo universe or the Turbo world, where we have the downfall of society happening, and Turbo kind of is born in, like, around the 2230s or 40s. I think she's like 10 in 2240. I would have to look that up. But we have things going on in the 2100s, and even the 20080s. The story starts to pick up, with the advent of pleasure robots and corporate monopolization or polyopolization, and then eventually, over decades, this one family, the D. Huberton family, will consolidate every industry into one company, and they will also marry in. So that's going to be interesting. But then also the science aspect of all the crap that's happening as people are developing little veins on their faces to deal with the radioactivity in the air and water and everything. So I don't know, Alex, did you have a couple of thoughts or ideas of something that if you were to contribute, that you might want to like find your way in? I know we have our bullet points. There's a lot of like flexibility here.
Yeah. As soon as you guys were started talking about doing anthology or whatever, my brain automatically started thinking of characters that I would like to create for the Turbo Pit Fighter universe. And my character that I was thinking of was because I was thinking of the fighter character, and not so much the backstory and universe and all that stuff. Because I would think about fleshing that out later, or maybe having you write it or whatever. But I was thinking my character would be like like that movie Mariachi. Is that what it is?
El Mariachi by
El
Robert
Mariachi,
Rodriguez.
or yeah.
Roger Rodriguez. Yeah.
Yeah, my thought was it would be like a female version of that, only without guns. It would be like using the guitar, because she would be like playing the guitar for the fans or whatever before the fight, to try to get them on her side and whatever, and then like use the guitar, like it would come apart, like the guitar strings would come apart, and she could use them as like um choking weapon, and it would be like reinforced, so she could use it as like a shield, or maybe have some spikes that would pop out or whatever. So that was really my first impression of what I would want to do.
So right,
Cool.
so a couple things come to mind here and that. Like, for one, you could have a guitar that has kind of like a transformer quality to it, where it turns into a weapon and back and forth. Right, that could be really interesting. I know that they in Mad Max Fury Road, they played around with the idea of having a guitar guy shredding on a flatbed while the attack was going on. And
Yeah,
and
they had that.
yeah, it's weird. Like everybody wants to kind of integrate somehow the symbolism of music and everything into the other action. And I don't know if it worked for the Fury Road thing so well.
I've thought about that.
I mean, I for a long time, Kurt, I've been thinking about like they used to have this drummer in the army, right? And I'm thinking about
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Revolutionary War and the
yeah,
Civil War and all that. I think
yeah,
they had it in the Civil War too. But
yeah.
imagine you could have a guy with a gun shooting the enemy, but instead he's going to be just drumming out a beat. Like to me, that seemed like pretty stupid. I think you had, and but it was maybe like a way to signal the timing of things. Now the first row, now the second row, right?
Yep.
I
Yep.
don't know, but
No,
um,
you're right.
but there's also the possibility of sonic warfare, right? Where you're deafening people, or you're creating sound vibrations. That all goes into the realms of like superpowers, I guess, or maybe you know really really super enhanced science technology. um but yeah, I'm thinking if you do that, there's a lot of ways to I mean, I would probably say yeah, leave it to me to tie everything back into the larger world and the timeline and the story and everything. And you could just zoom in to the good guys and bad guys and fighting and stuff and conflict. And then
Right.
if you just fleshed all that out on paper before you start doing pages, you can really plan it so that it fits nicely into the world. And you know I want these like segments to try to go in and out, that lead into the next things that coming. And
Right.
I'm still doing a lot of writing, obviously. Some of it is really just outline form. But um Kurt, I did finish up with Bianca, the artist from Brazil. She's a Japanese artist from Brazil. So I got some illustrations for her, and I'm ready now. When we drop that story, it's going to be the story of Wee Lu and her grandma
Oh, cool.
Rain Pa, and it's going to be the protest in Philly, and then the eventual kidnapping and the fight at the farm. Um, so that's coming up on the Substack. All that stuff is laying in wait. And yeah, so the question is like, where along the timeline? Because one really tough thing for me is trying to figure out how the years all go. And I'm because I have all these different threads here. We have the Duke, we have Esoterra, and then we have her daughter Elavena, who becomes really important, and she's going to be a little bit older when she meets Turbo in Turbo number 3. So all those years have to line up. But before this Esoterra, there's this great new character that I'm developing, who's going to be kind of like she's going to have like a human side, where she's the wife of the Bob Guccione type character that develops the pleasure bots and corners the industry. And then she's also going to have this other life where she lives on an astral plane. And astral plane doesn't even do it justice. It's going to be like a plane of she's going to be able to visualize DNA, everybody's DNA, and see everybody in a realm where your DNA, like from your past and your potential future, is going to be like graphically represented. And I don't even know how we're going to draw those sequences, but
Good luck.
she's going to be but she's going to learn to control it, and she's going to become a sentient, which means she will be around for over 100 years, 150 years by the time Esoterra is born. And so so there's also the rise of the sentients, which are people that stay alive through technology and keeping their beating organs alive and stuff. One thing which I'm really behind on is Chromita, the she-bot who builds herself. She's going to be a contemporary of Esoterra. She's going to be like basically a robotic assistant to Esoterra. But I am trying to kind of like thread these all things together, because once you have the timeline and the years, you can just really jump off. And Duke is going to be born in 2112. So that's an easy way for me to remember that. And so yeah, and the giantesses, I haven't really messed around with the giantesses yet. But that's it, other than the Tuesday movement. Then that's going to be the Tuesday cult, which becomes so important to the downfall of society, because they're going to be basically like preppers, and they're going to try to arrange their world and their society so that they're no longer dependent on governments or buses or trains or anything like that. I mean, just like independent societies that will have their own territory, and they will be like basically the resistance. Anybody who's not the deheritance is resistance. You're either with them or you're against them. So there's gonna be a little bit of that, and I don't know. If you if Alex, if you want to talk about your characters, you also have to talk about like the bad guys too. So maybe you want to think about that for the next conversation or something. But
Yeah, yeah. I haven't really fleshed out, like I said, the character. The character just was what I was thinking was like the El Mariachi with the using their guitar as a weapon. I was thinking less of it as being like robotic, and more of like it comes apart, like she can use different pieces of it.
yeah, it just converts from a guitar to a weapon, right? It's not like a robot.
No, but it would be like a piece comes from the back, and it can be a shield, and like spikes might come out of it or whatever. I was kind of thinking of that when you did the teaser, you have the guy shooting the dart at the one of the combatants to make them lose, and I was kind of thinking that would be, it's like an outside weapon that they bring in. Like they all have their own unique things that they can do, right?
Yeah, well, it depends where on the timeline it is, but if you're talking about like a female warrior, or assassin or something like that, there's plenty of opportunity for her to be part of the resistance, and for her to be one of Elevena's super squadron of enhanced females. And
Right.
by enhanced, they could be muscular, or they could just be agile, or they could be fast, or they could be whatever. But the whole thing about Elevena is she's a key person in the story right before Turbo comes around, and right when the disaster happens, what I call the mega apocalypse, is because she is a scientist that develops all this crazy stuff to enhance food, enhance humans, change people's physiology so that they could grow up like really really super strong or whatever, and super intelligent. But it falls into the wrong hand. The technology falls into the wrong hands. Anytime they see an example of it, they can copy it. They can use it as a template and reverse engineer it. So the bad guys get a hold of a lot of this stuff too, and they, I mean, so this is where I want to ask Kurt something, because we have an ongoing conversation about maybe this segment is called Jake's Paranoia. Oh, I don't know what we call this, but Kurt, I did find, this is in real life now, and you can tell me if this is a reliable source. The
Now I'm the AI verifier. Is that what
Right. Well, I didn't I didn't do all my own like independent fact checking research or anything yet, but the Marine Times, what is it called? The Marine Corps Times.
Wow.
They have a website and a logo and everything. And if you can see on my screen, this is the headline from September. So the Pentagon is really involved, and this is real life right now. The Pentagon is really involved in concerning themselves with defense systems for drone swarms, and they're afraid that a swarm of drones, not just one drone, could attack a sensitive area or place or whatever. And I I only read the first like 2 or 3 paragraphs, and I just basically just bookmarked it, and I said, I'm going to show this to Kurt. So it's a new system for zapping drones out of the sky. It's a private defense company that's making high-powered microwave systems that melt drones by creating a wall of electromagnetic energy in the sky called Epirus. And they have already delivered high-powered microwave systems to the Army in a $66 million contract last year. Now, I have heard of the active denial system, which is mounted on the back of a truck or a Humvee, which can shoot focused microwaves at a person and heat them up and cook them unless they move out of the way. And those are designed to dispel riots or large gatherings. And this has been used in like Iraq and stuff in the past. Like they're just guinea pigging it on humans. But I shouldn't laugh. But yeah. So if this is where we're at right now, the question is like, where are we going? And 50 years, 100 years, and if we're trying to make sci-fi that's fun and interesting and everything, but also has a touch of realism and science. I think we have to think about the ability. This is where I wanted to hear some feedback. The ability of bad guys to really just overcome everything else. If they have 3D printers and they can build drones all day, every day, they could just be coming over the mountain with a drone storm.
Yeah. Okay. So, but the thing is this: is that to what end? I remember years ago there was an argument online about because North Korea was being really raunchy, and they were firing these missiles over Japan and Russia, waters and even land. And so people started having this conversation about, like how come nobody in any of these greater governmental systems, from America to Russia to Japan to China, why doesn't somebody go in there and just get rid of this whole, governmental system in North Korea? And somebody jumped in real quick and said, well, then that country would have to take the financial responsibility for their citizens. Right. So when you look at science fiction, there's always this displacement of reality at some junction. In other words, aliens land, or these governmental takeovers, and the people are placed in rooms like cattle in 1984, all this kind of stuff. But that's why it's called science fiction, is because it takes a huge amount of resources to A, set up, B, run, and then C, maintain. So, the thing I always use as a critical meter when watching or reading anything that's trying to sell itself lately as like, super cool, new, sci-fi suspense thriller, is how willing are they to disconnect from reality? Because that is a tough thing nowadays. People can get a little bitchy, whiny, and moany. And they, well, that's not true. You couldn't do that because you're like, hold up. They're just drawing a line in the sand saying, this is where we want to depart from reality and now start fantasizing and creating that.
Well, you bring up a good point, is that the reason, because we've had this in real life where we try to do regime change in another country,
sure.
Militarized invasions, back channel stuff, backstabbing, try to poison people, all that kind of stuff has happened through history. But what if they didn't care about taking over care of the people? you know.
I just can't endorse it for reality, because reality is far more complex than anybody could create in a science fiction world. Because you're just one nut sitting there drawing and writing out, your story. Not you specifically, Jake, just us as individuals, having a good time, trying to come up and maybe even dealing with some anxiety about what's going on right now. But there has to be, for reality, a heavy dose of reality to maintain and circumnavigate what's going on, especially in these times where it's so easy for information to quickly get out there, and then you as an intelligent being has to discern it from being how true and how much of a lie. Since I guess, like, pretty much since COVID, I don't believe anything that goes online. I don't believe a damn thing. I need 3 more agencies to verify it. 3 more, not people, not Nutty McNuts on YouTube, and there are 4 million people following them on their channel, and they're like, oh yeah, that's blah blah blah, and I'll tell you why. Even Alex Jones. You know what I mean? Like, that's he's not verifying. It's people who are, really their entire lives, like Noam Chomsky and
the reason why I looked up that
Steven Pinkerton and Brian Cox, and just people who deal with reality. I mean, even what's his name, Neil deGrasse Tyson. These are individuals that are backed up by institutions, and they have, they've got to come to some kind of reality when facing those things.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I looked up the drone swarm technology is because I was minding my business. I was driving in my car this week and wasn't bothering anybody. And a commercial comes on, and I have Sirius XM, so sometimes you hear some weird commercials. There was a technology company that was saying, those commercials where like you don't even understand what they're advertising. It's like networking software or something. And if you have your ERP system on an EGM, then call us and we'll get you. And I'm like, but at the end of like a list of things of services, they say we also do drone swarm defenses, and find out more on our website. And so I'm saying, all right. So, whatever is going on online, this is people spending real money now, trying to get business for, and, this could be like, maybe like a petrochemical company, or this could be business for, somebody that has, any kind of like Pentagon contract where they building missiles, or maybe even just robotics, or all kinds of like different patented things. And they don't want somebody to come and, because nowadays maybe there could be a corporate, espionage, a corporate, attack, and, without any fingerprints. I mean, hey, some drones just blew up this company. Now this other company is going to inherit all the business, right? I wonder who did the attack,
Yeah. Tesla could easily do that. They could easily build their own army of drones.
Right.
Maybe they are.
They are.
Right. I mean, and anybody with a 3D printer could print, all the parts to make a drone army, and it could be going on 24/7, and the 3D printers could be printing more 3D printers. I mean, if you think about it. So, we're in this, we're going to be in this world, and that's why I'm trying to make it so that science becomes, the kind of like the most powerful, position. Because once they crack the quantum code, and I'm not trying to say, oh, let's make this really realistic, and because there is a point where you're asking people to suspend disbelief, right? Like, if we have characters that are cracking the quantum code, and they're able to manipulate matter and energy, obviously that's where the leap is. You can call it your quantum leap, I guess. But but to have as many elements of this. I mean, look, this is, I'm talking to some of my friends. I'm like, this is how I cope, because I've been meeting some other people that are just as paranoid as me, and they're young. There's when I talk to young people, that are like paying like $2,500 a month rent for a studio apartment in Brooklyn, and they're worried about like their careers, their future, what's going to happen, and they don't even know if there's like stability anymore. And we're not going to talk we're not going to talk about Tuesday's election, which is in 2 days, and everything that comes with, because I mean, that's another thing. I'm walking down the street and that comes up and people just look at the floor like, we're not going to talk about that. Like, I can't bear, like, I don't even want to think about it. And what the different if then things that are going to happen. And if people are listening to this in the future, you're probably laughing at us here in this naive little, time, this little timestamp that we're doing before whatever happens. But I'm trying to just transfer all of this angst and all these questions that we're asking into our creative output. And for me, it's therapeutic. Maybe some people will appreciate like the degree of detail that goes into these stories and stuff. But yeah, there is always a point where you're asking people to come on a ride with you, and we're gonna have super enhanced females. I mean, that's right out of Russ Meyer, so that's where we're having fun, and we're going into like B movie territory. Why aren't males super enhanced? Well, they are, but they're all the bad guys mostly, because they're weaponizing enhancement, and the other side is purposely only enhancing. This is Elevena's forces. They're purposely only enhancing, kind of like the security forces, because they want people to have regular lives, and they want couples to get married and reproduce and just try to have normal society. But but Elevena took it on herself, and her super squad. So there's going to be some of those characters, and maybe this character, code name Mariachi, is could be one of her. Like, she's going to enhance 5 characters in the beginning, just to kind of like experiment and test out her enhancement formulas. And I have names for them, but we don't have adventures for them. One of them is Pitchblende, who's going to be the first 6-pager that Kurt and I have packaged. But the other ones, we don't really, they're just kind of like in the timeline, just sitting there waiting for somebody to bring them alive. Yeah.
I have some questions.
You probably have a lot.
Please.
Yeah.
I do.
What are you on?
What are you on? Or what aren't you?
So are you thinking that doing the anthology would be like you would have 4, 5, 6, whatever stories, and they would each be different timelines in the Turbo universe?
Yeah, like I would say ideally, if people could just pick an era or a bullet point from the timeline, and then zoom in and then develop their character, and they're the owner to the extent that they created whatever it is, and it's just coexisting in this world where we're putting out a zine. And really, that's all we're doing at this point, is putting out, one zine at a time, where there's material created, and each creator will have the ability to, promote that material and exploit that material, and, either make money or not with that material, depending on their marketing prowess and a little bit of luck and a little bit of patience. I mean, anything could happen in the future, but it's all kind of helping each other. If it's just like a zine, Doom magazines will be a zine for the Turbo world, and the Substack will help it by creating all of this writing material, which I'm calling the end of the world timeline. But all these characters, yes, would be like somewhere on the timeline. And so so there just has to be like a couple of restrictions, like we can't have where the people are not part of this society wherever where this rich takeover is happening, and the government's going to fall in 2222, and there's going to be cults, and there's going to be mutual aid societies, and there's going to be the unlocking of the quantum code, and there's going to be those things. Just as long as they're in the world, pretty much anything else can happen. But I love the idea of, because I say to Kurt, the example of my favorite movie, The Road Warrior, which is Mad Max Part 2, and they're just fighting over gasoline. So I asked the question, well, why are we only fighting over gasoline? Why aren't we fighting over medicine, food, clothing, agriculture, everything? And so in this world, I would love it if somebody would just take an angle and say, all right, where I'm going to go over, why is everybody fighting over, land in Mexico, or why isn't everybody fighting over land in Greenland, or wherever they want to bite off? It's like they could just take a little part of the map, or part of the consumerism, or basic needs that people need, and just explore that, basically just like they do in Road Warrior, but change it up to fit in this world, and then bring whatever slant they have.
Right. Another question I have is, when does it start? What year?
So that's why I keep asking Kurt about what's happening right now. Like, do you want another link? Because I'm really sweating over stuff that's going on right now. The 2222 is going to be the fall of the U.S. government, and a little while after that, there's going to be the mega apocalypse, where the dehuberton families just use automated drones to release poison radioactive gas on all the big cities, because
so it's not a nuclear war.
No, it's going to be poison radioactive gas.
Okay.
And there are going to be some people who survive that, but it's only because they have a mutation, which could be natural, or it could be because of enhancement. And I'm not sure. I think it could be an enhancement, but then we just have to figure out how Turbo gets enhanced. But some people will actually get stronger, and as hundreds of thousands of people are dying all around them. And so that could bring up some really interesting psychological themes for like heroes with these guilt complexes, like why me? Why am I the one? And then they have like the responsibility to carry on and fight the battles. But but there's going to be like some kind of AI program that decides that it's not efficient anymore, to do what Kurt was saying earlier, is that we have to now inherit all of these people, and we have to feed them, and create transportation systems and hospitals and everything, and they're just going to decide, no, we're just going to shut down all these big cities, and the easiest way to do that is just by using radioactive gas to just kill everybody. And that's going to happen since we're here right now. I'm just trying to remind Kurt of things that I might have told him like a year ago or 3 months ago, but I'm sure it goes out the other ear. Is that this all is going to happen when they pull the trigger on the mega apocalypse? It's going to be because Elevena went hard at the dehubertons, and released, basically discredited them.
I think I can actually give another type of answer to Alex's question about when it all begins. There is, like, we have been spoon-fed post-apocalyptic stories, sci-fi stories, from Mad Max, the year what? No, they don't ever tell you what year it is when it becomes. But all the people who end up trying to market their movies, they decide it's 1987, and so then they go that way. I think one of the beauties of what Jake is leading him and I on in a post-apocalyptic sci-fi thriller, which is Turbo Pit Fighter, is the multiple points of entry. So it becomes less about everything was good before 1984. Why? And then this cataclysmic, nuclear such and such takes us then into this post-apocalyptic situation. If one was to kind of just step in, like even this episode, and they're listening to Jake, they might think, well, it is happening right now. Like this, the actual beginning point for Jake's initiation of Turbo's world started yesterday. And then tomorrow it'll be yesterday. And then tomorrow it'll be yesterday. Right, or you could even think about it. You could even think about it on the reverse, which is, well, it's going to happen tomorrow. And then tomorrow you get up and you go, well, it could happen tomorrow.
Yes.
And then you get, that type of mechanism.
Yeah, that's a great answer. So the question is, when does it start? It's like, it has already begun, right? And that's
you fool.
The writing I did, which is going to be good for at least a couple of Kurt, I never showed you any of the writing with Wee Lou and Ree and Paul yet, but it's going to be good for a couple of installments at least, and so I have some art for it too from Bianca, and there's going to be a 6-pager wrapped up in there. Once I share it with you, I want you to help me figure out, okay, the 6-pager's definitely got to be this scene, right? Or this part, right? But I tried to make that on the earlier side of things, when there's still kind of normal society, people are protesting a lot, and everything is kind of dividing up. Like the cops, for one thing, are going to be dividing up. There's going to be good cops, and there's going to be company cops. And the company cops are all basically on the job, but they're moonlighting for the dehubertans in one way or the other. And there's going to be lots of different ways that comes about. But when somebody needs to call the cops for something, it's going to depend entirely on who shows up, whether or not you actually get any services, or maybe they just come and finish the job, so that's going to be, kind of building, but it's going to be about like territory and these kind of like cult societies and all these different organizations that really kind of like circle the wagons and say, all right, we're going to grow our own food, we're going to have our own livestock, we're going to make our own, medicine, we're going to take care of our own people. And there's going to be these sustainable loops. Sometimes it could be an entire state. We're going to have the states all dividing, because when the dehubertans really develop, so much power to hold over the government, they're going to have state governments already on their side, and that's going to be kind of like a reference to the way states are divided now already, right? But whatever like whole states are going to sign on to the life plan are going to be basically contracting with the dehubertans to provide all the government services on the state level, and all of the federal stuff is going to just be like just here and there, kind of like ad hoc. There will be FBI and there will be like agencies and stuff, but they're going to be like kind of powerless in some of these, company states, and they're going to be, it's going to get like so that it just dwindles and dwindles and dwindles until, even before 22, when everybody's just, joining either a cult or joining Elevena's, movement, which is trying to, like one big thing that Elevena is going to pull off is to be merging all the cults together in one big kind of operation under her name and her under her name recognition and stuff, because she's going to be the ultimate scientist that can literally hand out nutritious food and save lives, and and medicine and everything, and provide services that that we would ordinarily look to the government for, and it's just going to be Elevena's, whatever we're going to call her, super squadron. She's going to have her security forces, she's going to have her food production, she's going to have everything that people need, and that's going to be some of the states, and I'm thinking like a number like 17 states. So there'll be, most of the states will be gone and lost, but there'll be like 17 states, and they won't be contiguous. There'll be some that are contiguous and some not, which will make it tough, if they're like surrounded, and stuff. And eventually the mega apocalypse happens and everything just becomes wasteland. So it's kind of negative. So I'm laughing because we just need to get to the turbo world, and this has been me for years now trying to figure out how we're going to get there, to the
Right.
the turbo world. And it's the same thing like the Mad Max people are thinking, except they only use like a 1-minute clip of newsreels, and I'm doing all the, and I'm saying, oh, let's have all these stories, let's really flesh things out, let's get collaborators, let's make a go of it, because these are the things that really are skipped over, a lot. I mean, there's so many post-apocalyptic stories. They just start with an atom bomb at the beginning, and then, okay, now you're off and running into your story. Yeah.
So I think one of the things you kind of need are dates for when things happen.
Yeah, we have it.
So
we have it.
Oh, you have all
Yep.
the dates, like Elevena, she is in the 2022. When did you say it all started? 22.
I have her. I have Elevena and Esoterra and the Duke's birth dates in a screenshot in my photos, which I'm going to scroll up and find in the next couple minutes.
All right. So, but that is how much before the Turbo Pit Fighter main storyline is that?
Well, Elevena, there's going to be this big scene of Elevena's surrender where she's going to go to prison, and that'll be like right before Turbo's born, and then
so it's okay.
Yeah, or it'll be around the time Turbo's born, and because we pick up Turbo when she's like 8 or 10 years old, so Elevena will have been in prison for like 20 years at that point.
Right. And you talk about the mega apocalypse. What does that entail?
So that is all the big cities being annihilated by drones that release poison, that release radioactive gas, and just wipe everybody out, except for the glowers who carry on and maybe even get more muscular or more whatever their skill is. Yeah.
Right.
And that's going to be a resistance that Elevena also, and her mom Esoterra could be, developing too. So
yeah. I wouldn't. So if I wouldn't really think too much about modern technology. Are you guys fans of like James Bond and stuff like that?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
like
yeah.
When I was a kid, I loved James Bond. I thought he was awesome. But like recently, I have not really been into it, and I'm kind of realizing that some of the reason that I'm not really into it is because he doesn't have these amazing gadgets that are like super scientific or whatever. Like he could have shoes that have lasers in them or whatever. But in the 70s and 80s, whatever, that's amazingly awesome. But now it's like, no,
well, it's too realistic
no big deal.
now.
Yeah.
They made it too realistic. That's exactly what I was referring to earlier. Is that you get me minutes in, and you haven't flipped the switch where you say to me in your storyline, all right, we just departed reality now. Have a good time. If you don't give that to me within the first 5-ish minutes, any kind of indicator, you've lost me, because I haven't come to be moralized by James Bond. I want the opposite. I want I want the girls. I want the guns. I want the gadgets. I want to travel the world. That's what it was all set up as. Right. So, if that's not a thing for society, then, okay. But then what are you going to do with it? But, That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's also, it depends who's telling the story, because
Yeah.
you can talk about Ian Fleming, and then you can talk about Hollywood, schlock, the big budget stuff, like they care more about who the actor is than any plot point at all.
Yeah.
So, there you have James Bond's gadgets coming in what they call the just-in-time, method, where it's like, he's only got a limited, bunch of tools that are just designed to heighten the drama and especially like the climactic scenes. But if you're thinking about it, like, more realistically, yeah, well, why wouldn't he have a pen that shoots a freaking bullet, all the time?
Right, right.
So,
He should have a case of them.
yeah, right, exactly. So, right, that's what's fun, and and they kind of made fun of that. Mel Brooks kind of made fun of that with the whole Get Smart, series, like,
Right.
taking the piss out of it. But yeah, I'm just looking here on my timeline. So, Elevena is born in 2198. She's created in a lab after 10 miscarriages. That's why she's named Elevena, and that's going to be fun too when we have esoteric fun. I really got to stop this. Esoteric.
No.
Esoteric.
Horribleness is fun.
Esoteric's 10 miscarriages are going to be 10 chapters of her, tale. But basically, Esoteric is kind of like this Doctor Strange character who does all this amazing stuff, but she doesn't understand exactly all of it, how it's happening. She's just natural at it, and she is studied by researchers and professors and universities and everything, and then that leads to them understanding the science of it, because there's no such thing as magic after all. And it's basically how they get to unlocking the quantum code. And she says, screw these guys, I'm going to create my own daughter, my own child. And she creates her own child, and after 10 previous failures, and and Elevane is born, and she's super smart scientist. She has all these innovations when she's just a child, and some of her research falls into the hands of the Dehubritans through a corrupt university. And her first breakthroughs are going to be like making food more efficient, and so that people have all their nutritional needs met, and you don't even have to have any as much waste. But that's one thing. But she's going to really guard how to manipulate matter and energy. She's going to guard that because she knows that it can never fall into the wrong hands. And her mother too are going to prevent even good guys from getting this technology,
Right.
because it eventually all does fall into the wrong hands. And so the Dehubritans, once they realize that, they start enhancing their own people, and of course they're using it for soldiers. And the main guy, who is one of the Dehubertan family that enhances himself to make himself really strong, is going to be called the Unbeknownst One, and he's going to roam the wasteland with this like real cruelty, and he'll just be kind of like a nomadic pit fighter, and he's going to be the guy that stands off against Turbo in the final 6th issue of the Turbo saga. But he's also going to be the guy that imprisons Elevena. He's going to have a standoff with Elevena when he's younger, and the Dehubritans are going to just represent, like, all the bad stuff, like the new king slash corporate slash multi-trillionaire, all the boogeymen rolled into one. And I have some real interesting characters that are going to be before. So this whole world is like prequeling what happens in Turbo.
Yeah. So my kind of, not my follow-up, but another question is, how do you envision this all being produced, like a series of graphic novels or one giant tome or something like that?
So So we're making Turbo Pit Fighter as the first comic. It's going to be done in 2025, we believe, and then we're going to set out on the second one. But
So
the time, but the production is going to really speed up in 2027, or no, sorry, June 2028. I'm retiring, or I could retire. So then I could conceivably just start doing this crap full time.
This crap.
Right. But so you want to produce it as individual comics and then a graphic novel, or
Yes, that's
like what?
that's the plan. If Kurt and I get there, a 6-issue graphic novel. It's already kind of outlined, and I have a really cool outline for the twists and turns that happen. And I just kind of gave away the ending, which we do spoilers, but
Yeah.
the last issue is going to be Turbo versus the Unbeknownst One in the ultimate pit fight battle of all, where everything goes wrong and everybody in the audience on both sides pick sides, and it becomes just kind of like a microcosm of the division in the world. Everybody's picking sides, but and I don't know, like I played around with this with Kurt. I don't really know at the end whether we want Turbo to survive this. I'm toying around with Turbo buying the farm, or and then the
But you
trophy.
just said the other day that you don't like bummer endings. That would be a
He
bummer
doesn't.
ending.
He
No,
doesn't.
what I said the other day is that I don't like the crime pays message.
Right. Okay.
Right, but bummer endings are great. I mean, look at every Shakespearean tragedy, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
But it just depends. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, we don't need to be, fall into any formula or anything. And, twists and turns, like, what would really hit hardest, I think is more important, because, nowadays, if you kill off a character, so what? You could always just have the adventures of young Turbo, if you're worried about that. But one thing is that the ending is going to be crazy, and I have a lot of good ideas for that with the interplay between Turbo and Trophy.
So, do you guys have a definite plan on how many pages it's going to be when it's all said and done?
1,000,001.
1,000,001 pages.
No, issue 1 is I think issue 1 is 28, right, Kurt?
28 pages.
Yes, yeah, 28. So if you take, it's basically 30. Right now it's 30 times 6, so that's 180.
Right.
But the thing that keeps, I think the real interesting thing, Alex, and I'm pretty sure you're in the same camp as we are right now, especially with technology evolving around us, and in order to re-represent what it is we're making. I just want to do a shout out to Notebook LM, from Google, who I just gave a tryout for, where I took the first 3 episodes and put it into this AI system, and then had it do a person-to-person 8.5-minute podcast talking about Jake and I's first 3 episodes of Turbo Pit Fighter. And so you can listen to that and even watch us work on those original when you first land on the Turbo Pit Fighter YouTube channel. Now, the reason I bring it up is there's going to be so many things that will pop up in the next 5 years, or just 3 years. Let's 2 years. Let's just go 2 years. That will cause a reaction within Jake and I to create additional material. And, one of them has already started, which is our Substack. And the reason I pushed for Jake to do and actively participate in the Substack is because of all of this really amazing flow of story ideas, but more importantly, just content material. I think one of the dangers people find themselves in when they want to write a story or make a comic book or an animation or movie or script or all these creative things that are story linked, they ultimately end up finding that they struggle with parameters. How many pages is it going to be? Oh, I'll make it 6 pages. Oh, I'll make it 20 pages. I'll make it 133, a million, 1 page. You know what I mean? All this doesn't have anything to do with the creative process. It has nothing to do. Restraints has nothing to do with the creative process. That has to do with the production value of then recuperating your ROI in what it is that you're trying to spend your time and making some money on. But the thing about it is with, and I just want to say that we're finishing up this episode, and I want to thank Alex for responding to our video that Jake and I were basically establishing the argument in debating each other on how to put together the next Turbo teaser, since we're moving so close to it. But the anthology aspect of it, I think, is also going to be calibrating and recalibrating page count to the graphic novel, as well as the comic book itself. I will go on record and have in the past and will continually. I think a 32-page comic book for $5 is lame. It's just lame because there is so many other things you can put into it in order to cause a person to go a little deeper and a little deeper and a little deeper, just to try to recoup off of a 32-page comic book and drive somebody into that space as a fan or starting as a fan. I think it's just really asinine. But that's just my own point of view. I can't place that on Jake. But then at the same time, we do have to create a restraint of okay, this is done. We need to make this, get it out there to promote, make a little money on it.
Yeah, and the last time I was in the Barnes and Noble, I'm picking up some of these, magazines. I'm looking at these new kind of like, magazines that look like an eerie or creepy format. And I love the idea of where you can have some comics and then have some prose and then have some, some pinups and some ads or whatever, if you're going to do ads. But, it's, why does it have to be, constrained? I know it's just going to take a long time before we have, all 6 issues, to compile. So in the meantime, Kurt and I have spoken about putting out all kinds of variations. Like we're going to do, Turbo #1, then we're going to do Turbo #1 pencils, then we're going to do, Turbo #1, I mean, obviously it'll be broken up into zines, as teasers before #1 is completed. Right. And, this way we're really just trying to also, not just build up our marketing, but also build up our collaborations, with others and, how we're going to fit into the new ecosystem,
and also, and this just, once again is praising the blessing I have in Jake being, one half of a creative team, and we've been able to make it this far without one of us, probably me, just, getting on the floor and crying and saying, I don't want to do this anymore. You're driving me crazy, kind of like situation that creatives can fall into, because one has a stronger pull in the vision and the direction and the focus, and they want to see these things. I'll tell you right now, I have a very like 50-50 feeling when Jake retires, because one half of me goes, holy crap, man, can you imagine us doing this 7 days a week? And not only what him and I are doing, but having you on, Alex, having another creative on, you're working on your thing, but you're also contributing, and we're also contributing to you. Like, that's insane. But then the other half of me goes, that's insane. That's an insane amount of work. That's insane. These kinds of things. Yeah. And I've even said off air to Jake occasionally, in expressing this sort of anxiety towards him and I having, all the time in the world to spend making comics and videos, is that we're going to hire somebody. You know, we would have to hire
You might.
somebody to do the, you know, the run the podcast, edit the videos, post the social media and stuff, because it would take a lot more effort on both of our sides to just keep with the continuity of being the creators, but also what we're leading ourselves into, which is the personalities. You know, those are the guys who do that. You know, so, and I'm really excited about IC3 in March of March 15th of 2025, because it'll be the official first time Jake and I have seen each other for 23 years or something like that. But also people are going to be able to walk up to us and go, wow, you're the guys doing that crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm very excited about that. That's probably the number one thing, next to being able to stand next to Jake once again in a comic book con, you know, as creators and everything. So, you know, once again, I can't thank Jake enough for taking responsibility for one half of what it is that I don't enjoy taking that much in that. But we do need to start wrapping up. We have an interview, our last interview of the year. I'm really excited about this one. I purposely held off, and it's with Mike White. We've had Mike on before. Mike, right when we did his interview, he had just started with his publisher. And so there was a little, he ended up sending us this little promo. So we're going to see how this little promo and his relationship with that publisher then went on to 3. I believe there's even more comics than that. But other than that, that's what I got. Jake and Alex, I thank you again for taking the time this morning and you know, working with us. But I'll let both of you close this out.
Right. So I also appreciate Alex. I hear, like, you know, the curiosity and you know, and the questions that you're asking, and it's really great to me, you know, to have somebody, because it's hard to convey, you know, a lot of this mishigas that's going on right now, all in one breath or all in one segment or something. But you know, Kurt has really afforded me the time to just, like, because I say, well, I would just like to make pages and just like to, you know, do the creative stuff. And so, you know, it's a great pairing for me, you know, to be able to do that. So I can, you know, I bought a used MacBook Air, and I just keep it by my bed, and it was only $140. And so I just click and click and click, and, you know, come out with, you know, these story things that I'm putting all on this website, and, you know, updating all of these different threads. And then, you know, I do sketches when I can, and then we meet here and we do the pages. But you know, it's hard to convey to somebody, you know, a real expansive kind of like world, you know, where you know, there's a lot of possibility for somebody to come in and, like, you know, and just bite off a little slice of it. So I really appreciate your questions and everything. And you know, we will, you know, we'll talk again, obviously, but we do need to wrap this up. So we just want people to be aware that we have a couple of other channels. We have Comics That Influence, where we do flip throughs and we do hauls and stacks, and you know, we talk as art teachers about what's going on inside the comics, and then of course our other series, the Indie Comic Creator Exchanges, where we're going to be taping one right now. When you know, people can get involved, leave a comment, get in touch, reach out. You know, we're really just trying to develop a network of indie comic creators, whether they're doing their own stuff or whether they want to collab in some way. It's all good in the hood. And we'll give Alex the last word.
Okay, well, I don't really have a last word, other than that I know exactly what you're talking about. All of my work in Random Access, it's all one giant universe. And mine goes back from the beginning of time with gods and stuff like that, old gods and all that kind of stuff, to a sort of a post-apocalyptic robot kind of thing. So I know exactly what you're talking about, where it can be kind of a nebulous thing, and unless you, like, really nail down a timeline and dates and stuff, it can kind of be a little difficult to exactly explain what you're thinking. So, but it's all part of the process, which you guys are definitely doing, which is cool. I'm really into the anthology that you guys are really talking about. And one of the things that I was really truly thinking was that because you guys are so in depth with your detail and stuff, there are so many artists that I love and loved back when I was younger, like Arthur Adams or Kevin McGuire, that would only be able to do, they couldn't do a monthly book. They could only do annuals or a book every once in a while. And so if they had an anthology where it was, Arthur Adams and, some other artists that really couldn't hold on to a stringent deadline or, a monthly deadline or whatever, I would still have loved a 2 or 3 pages of Arthur Adams every month or something like that. So I really
Right.
think that if we could get this anthology rolling, that would be really fantastic. And if you guys can simplify your styles to make it into a timeline, a monthly, a bi-monthly, that would be great. But if you can't, and you can only do 1 page for a monthly or bi-monthly, that's still fantastic too, because I would rather see, something in print from you guys, a 1 page a month or 1 page every 2 months than not at all, or, 5 or 10 years down the road and you see everything. So that's
Right.
really kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah. I mean,
Thank you.
it's possible. I mean, one option is just going with works in progress. The other option is using the stuff from the Substack to combine prose and illustrations. So there's a lot of different ways to handle it. But yeah, and folks can go check out Random Access and Mutandis on Alex's socials and Alex's website, right?
Yep.
Want to give that out one more time?
AlexanderTurbin.com.
What is it? I stepped on it.
AlexanderTurbin.com.
What? How more basic can you get than that?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, everybody. So see you all next Sunday, and see you all in the funny papers. Take care.
All right. See you next Sunday, Jake.
All right.
See ya.
All right. Hold tight. Hold tight, Mr. Alex. Wow, you're already
Calculating.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. You have the entire episode you had 0%, and then once I stopped, you had you were 100%.